Well, good evening. We're going to get started here in just a second. I'm just waiting for the online camera to come on. Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting. At this time, I'm going to ask the City Clerk to indicate who's giving the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. While she's doing that, if you could please stand.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leading us in the invocation tonight is Stephen Collins from the Inland Valley Vineyard Church, and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance is Girl Scout Troop 716 and Girl Scouts Troop 2081.
You should pray here in the chamber, and I'd like to read one verse if I can get it up here. I'm sorry. Here we go. This is in Psalms 127, one verse. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. Let's pray. Well, Father, first of all, we want to thank you for your presence. And we thank you that we can love you because you loved us first. And Father, you love this city. You love the people that you placed in this city. And Father, you raised up people that are made to lead this city. And Father, that is the mayor and the city council, the city attorneys, the city planners, the city treasurer. Father, we ask you that you would just give them wisdom and the direction that you want this city to go. And Father, we lift up the first responders, the fire department, and the chief of police and the police department that stand in the gap, protect your people, protect the property. And Father, we lift up their families because every day as they leave their homes, they might not come home. So just bless them. Again, Father, we just trust you and we seek you. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added unto you. So we thank you, Father, and we love you in Jesus' name.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and for all.
Well, first off, thank you for coming and thank you for taking the lead this evening. I'm going to ask you to tell us your name, your school and grade, and then maybe something about why you like being in the Scouts, okay?
My name is Zoe Gomez. I'm a 10th grader at Eleanor Roosevelt's East STEM Academy. And one thing I enjoy about Girl Scouts is being able to help everyone.
I'm Abigail Gomez, and I'm a 9th grader at Eleanor Roosevelt. And one thing I like about Girl Scouts is it teaches me to be a better leader.
I'm Sydney Bradford. I'm in 7th grade at Rainey Intermediate, and what I like about Girl Scouts is that it helps with social skills and it helps you help other people.
I'm Sarah Fernandez. I go to River Springs Charter School, Corona. I'm in 6th grade, and I like Girl Scouts because I get to try new things and learn about leadership.
I'm Alexa Toledo, and I go to Proudview Elementary. I am in 4th grade. I'm 10 years old, and the reason why I like Girl Scouts is because when we work together as a team, it makes me feel helpful.
I'm Haley Smith. I go to Cornita Elementary. I'm in 3rd grade. The reason I like Girl Scouts is because I so on to lean on. My name is Rebecca Fernandez, and I go to River Springs Charter School, Corona. I'm in 3rd grade, and the reason why I like Girl Scouts is because they have fun events.
You guys all did an amazing job. Let's give them a round of applause for that and doing the pledge. And maybe what some of you don't know is that it's tough for some of them because they're up here and they're trying to remember what they're saying, and they're looking at these 2 giant monitors they're here, and they're watching themselves and admiring, boy, I'm really good looking tonight and I'm doing a great job and I should be up here more often. But we're delighted that you're here and that you led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So we're going to arrange do a picture, and then I'm going to give one of you the certificates and you can pass them out. Okay. So Cindy, where do you want us to go? Okay, let me get you certificates. Thank you again, guys. Great job. Great job. Okay. TV time's over. We got to go to an ad. Commercials, you know how it is. Thank you again, girls. Next, I would like to just remind everyone, if you're going to be speaking on an item this evening or during general comments, to please be sure to fill out a card, which can be found at the back of the room. And either before or when you're coming up, present it to the city clerk's area over here. At this time, I'd like to invite up for a proclamation on the National Diabetes Awareness Month, Debbie George, Michelle Thornburg, Chief Johnstone, and Chief Young. And while they're coming up, we have a 1-minute video.
My name's Eric, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 31 years old.
I'm Allison. I have type 1 diabetes, and I was diagnosed at 9 years old.
My name is Parker, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 15 months.
Hi, I'm Matt. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 12 years old.
My name is Sierra. I was diagnosed at 15 months old with type 1 diabetes.
Type 1 diabetes, formerly known as juvenile diabetes, is an autoimmune disease in which the pancreas stops producing insulin, a hormone that's needed to survive.
I give myself insulin shots several times a day.
Insulin is my life support.
Type 1 diabetes cannot be prevented.
Type 1 diabetes has nothing to do with your diet and lifestyle.
Both children and adults can be diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
I didn't eat too much sugar like some people might think.
There's no cure yet, but type 1 diabetes is manageable.
I played baseball since I was 4 years old, and I don't let type 1 diabetes stop me.
We have type 1 diabetes.
For more information, go to east1d.org.
I see those guys all the time. So I'm going to turn it over to one of you and talk a little bit about it. And then if one of the chiefs wants to join up, you're welcome to.
First of all, I would like to say thank you for supporting our cause. We appreciate that so much. And thank you to Fire Chief Young and to Police Chief Johnstone for partnering with us. November is National Diabetes Awareness Month, and my son, when he was just 2 years old, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and I did not know the symptoms, and he almost died. I took him to 2 different doctors who also didn't know the symptoms. So it's very important, it's become our mission to raise awareness and educate the public that type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, and both children and adults can be diagnosed. Because it used to be called juvenile diabetes, it's now called type 1 diabetes. There was a misconception that it was just children and that they outgrew it, and that's just not true. It's a lifetime disease. They are insulin dependent. Insulin is not a cure, it's their life support. And we do need a cure. The reason we raise awareness is because we want public awareness. We want the public to understand that it's not, it can't be reversed. They can't diet or exercise and it goes away. They don't outgrow it. There's so many misconceptions, and that's why we are so thankful to be partnering with our Corona Fire and Corona Police departments, because not only are they helping us raise awareness, but we're also educating the public by running our public service announcements and our awareness flyers. We feel that each year we want it to grow bigger and bigger. We have some of our Corona Norco schools on board that have the banners up and are putting our flyers out. It's just very important that people understand that it is a life-threatening disease. My son, I thought he had a cold. I thought it was just a virus. It'll be 16 years in February that he was diagnosed, and I am just so thankful to the Lord that he survived, because a lot of children don't, because their parents just think it's the simple cold or flu virus. I know my partner has something to say as well.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. How many of you here know someone that has type 1 diabetes? So there's a lot of hands in the room, and I think it's so telling of a lot of people know someone with type 1 diabetes, but not everyone knows really what it means. We are so thankful to the police department, the fire department, the city of Corona for allowing us to come here. We had a newly diagnosed 11-year-old boy just this past month go, you know, why doesn't anyone do anything for us like they do for breast cancer, other Red Ribbon Week? And we want to change that. He was so excited. He went to his school principal, asked if he could put a banner up. And so it really helps these kids. There's a lot of bullying involved. They look different. They have different sensors, sites, needles. So to be able to show support and let them know that we understand, we're here for them, we want to raise awareness so that people don't think it's something that can be outgrown or something that they're just elaborating on and not so serious. So it's really important. So we thank everyone for helping us raise awareness.
So I want to add to this in that, and I don't know if you ladies are aware, a few years ago, as a school principal and also due to something that was occurring in my life, I learned that it was very difficult to get rid of the needles. Most doctors wouldn't take them, most medical facilities would not take them. And so you were really at a loss as to where to put them. And working with Mr. Moody and through the city, we now have 2 drop spots. One's in this building, in the foyer, and there's another one at the library. So please spread that word as well. We want needles disposed of properly, and for a lot of our diabetics, as well as other people, we want them to feel comfortable in getting rid of those. So another nice piece there. So on behalf of the city council, and all of the employees, I want to present you with this proclamation regarding this being Type 1 Diabetes Month and Awareness Month. And we appreciate you coming this evening to share the message with everybody. So Cindy's over here. She's like a... Okay. Next up, we have meeting minutes. The meetings that we are looking to approve are a special meeting of October 9th, Also, a meeting of October 16th, a council meeting, another meeting on October 16th, a special meeting, and then we had a study session on October 23rd. Is there a motion to
Move to approve?
I'll move. I'll second.
Please vote.
Councilmember Carrillo?
It's not moving. My screen is still. Okay. Thank you, Wes, for fixing it. I didn't do anything.
And that passes. Next up, consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. With the concurrence of the city council, the council member, or any person in attendance may request that an item be removed for further consideration. Are there any items from the council wishing? Which one?
I have L.
Oh, I'll get you just a second.
C. Ms. Creo, say L.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I got nothing.
Okay, so we're all kind of, all right, and
I do not have any speaker cards.
very good. So do we have a motion to approve the other items?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Please vote. And those pass. We're now going to item 3C, City Council consideration of a request for proposal 20-011Y or WY. It's a reward for classification and compensation study in the amount of $279,560. And this is Councilman Speak.
Thank you. And first, I want to apologize to the city manager. I just found my email in my outbox, or in my so I apologize. I didn't send this to you before, but I think it's an important first step for us to do this. It is important, I think, for not only our employees, but for taxpayers as well, that we look and see at and compare how our staff and our employees match up with folks in other cities. I did want to make sure, or at least I didn't see in the contract, and maybe I don't think I could open it the whole way, but I wanted to make sure that are we looking at benefits too and how those match up as well? And in comparable cities, who's making the choices on comparable cities?
Mayor Scott, members of the City Council, yes, the review by the company will be salary and benefits for total compensation. The two safety organizations have specifically spelled out in their MOUs who they're to compare with. The miscellaneous people similarly have that. If you recall back to June when the budget was presented, this was a big issue. This hasn't been done in over 20 years. Comparable relative to the marketplace, our ability to attract and retain employees. Although this is more than the city manager put in the budget, which I kind of thought it might be, with hoping to get closer to it. I think it is an important first step, and while it's going to take almost 18 months to get to the other end, it will be a process that will engage the employees and department heads in to see where they stand and how we rank against others and what the career ladder should be for the future.
Great, thank you. And with that, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Please vote.
Councilmember Speak.
The item passes. Item G, we're going to item G. This is for Councilwoman Castillo.
Yep.
And it's City Council consideration of an exemption to bidding to Image Trend Incorporated for software application. Sorry.
Thank you.
It's all right.
I was looking for Castillo.
My name's been changed a couple of times today. Mr. Lansdale, I pulled this because, as you've noticed, I prefer established, deliberate processes for the way we spend our money. So every time I see an exception to bid, it just, I flag it. So I'd like to know, aside from the saving of our time in going through this process, why it would benefit us to go to an exception to bid for this item. I recognize why this software is most compatible for our department. What didn't come through is why we can't go through a process in order to reach that same conclusion.
Mayor Scott, members of the council, as Councilwoman Casillas indicated, staff determined that this purchasing this software and not duplicating a legacy system that was brought in 1996. For those who know about software, that is like an eternity for something to be in place that long. The other part, and so it does represent a savings of over 2,300 man-hours, the duplication of the reporting. But part of this best practice would be that the county of Riverside, who controls the medical reporting, requires us to input into this software. So if we can input directly into it, into our CAD system, there's savings relative to going to bid, finding another software company to do the same thing, to report similar to what we're using the current legacy system with, of duplicating efforts. At the end of the day, the information still has to go to the county, whether it be through a system we maintain ourselves, and then re-enter into the system they require us to.
I understand that. How long would an RFP process, how many people hours would it take to do an RFP process for something like this?
Well, the standards for that would be probably 90 days to get it out there, get it back, put together the information we already have from the county of what the system has to entail.
So that's how long we would wait in order to get the answer that we want. But how putting together a proposal, requesting proposals, is that difficult for staff to do?
Putting the process together is not that difficult to do, particularly when the standards have already been set. In this case, the County of Riverside says your system will do X.
Mm-hmm. Do we, when we get something that's a sole source, do we get to negotiate that price? Okay. Would the RFP process ever help us leverage a better price since we don't get to negotiate it? Would this ever help with driving competition and therefore maybe in the future assist in lowering our costs?
Depending on the situation, it could. But generally, when you go to RFP, the numbers that come in are the numbers that you're dealt with. And remember, except for a few instances, lowest responsible bidder.
So there's the risk that if this goes out to bid, that we don't end up with the software that is most compatible with the work that we already do.
That's correct.
Okay. I pulled this item because really my concern is for our purchasing approach as a city. And I truly believe that exceptions to bidding should be the exception. So I recognize that this is the best software, that this is what the chief and our department deem is the best for our department, and it is a compelling enough argument for me to recognize that the risk of us not getting the best software, that's compelling to me. But avoiding the process is not a compelling argument to me. But just for the risk, for that reason, I will agree and move to pass item G.
Second.
I still had a question. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I pulled it also.
Okay.
Is this, I understand that it's compatible with the county, but is this the only company that's compatible with the county?
Councilman, I'm going to defer to the chief because he's the one that interfaces with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so basically, the county mandates which software system you have to utilize solely for the emergency medical system component. So what we've been dealing with historically is we have this secondary system that handles the rest of our reporting in addition to the EMS. So therein lies the duplication. To answer your question is, we have to enter the information into ImageTrend, so we would continue to do that. So if we went to RFP and we had 20 people bid, they're the only ones that would eliminate the need for redundancy, having two concurrently running systems and two interfaces with our CAD system.
Sure.
So the true definition of a sole source is the only person that could provide what we would write the RFP for. And it wouldn't be written inappropriately. It would be written based on our organizational need, identifying a single vendor that could handle all of our needs. So we would, by default, run an RFP and end up with a sole source as a byproduct, not by design, but that's what would happen. So we know that nobody else could meet it.
Okay.
So that was really the bottom line of why we opted to go sole source and not go through the process just for the nature of going through the process.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay, then I will make the motion to pass G.
Please vote. That passes. We're now going to item 3L, City Council to receive information report on the Department of Housing and Community Development Regional Housing Needs Assessment, also known as RHNA, determination for the Southern California Association of Governments region for the 6th cycle, General Plan Housing Element Update. This is for June 2021 through October 2029. There's three of us that pulled this. Councilmember Carrillo, Vice Mayor Steiner, and myself. Oh, you're on that one too? Okay.
Okay. So my question was, I wanted to find out, in the staff report, it does lay out what kind of information that they're pulling to get these numbers from, but I don't have like history, so I don't know what happened in the last cycle or the cycle before. So I want to find out if somebody can give us a report about exactly how do they come about the numbers, and then how much difference does it look from the past, or the last cycle, I should say.
It might be helpful if we got all of the questions, because I'm going to defer
Sure.
part of this to Community Development Director Coletta. But I can tell you that these numbers for the region are trying to meet what the governor's trying to do to all of us without the backdrop behind it.
Okay.
So these numbers are a lot bigger than you've seen in the past. But if we could get the other questions so we could tee up the response.
Okay,
Vice
thank
Mayor
you.
Steiner?
Well, I'm just trying to get my head around this with what is going to be required of us and when, because we have a lot of questions from the community about development, and you kind of, if we're going to be forced to do this, then this needs to start becoming part of our conversation.
Councilman, speak.
I realize that we're not voting. We're just getting this information, and I understand that the process that we have to pay. I was happy to see 6,500 be the number instead of 9,500 that it was earlier. So I feel better about that. It's still a big number, and it's not final. That still has to go through the process, and we'll find out when we start our process sometime next year. But my question was more on, what, if there was anything else we could do. I know that Ms. Coletta wrote a great letter that I think hammered the point home, really well for all of us. I wanted to see kind of, what she thought, or what, Mr. City Manager, you thought as our chances of that number sticking, and how we go forward with that.
I have one more question, Mitch.
Go ahead.
So what are the penalties if we don't meet this? And have we ever had to pay penalties, or has there been a time that the city has not met the goal?
No.
And so I was just going to tag on, not a question, but 2 meetings ago, During my WRCOG update, I shared information about the 3 options that had been presented and the fact that Ms. Galetta, representing Corona as the community development directors were asked to do, she was doing it for Corona, indicated that none of the options was acceptable. As Councilmember Speak said, the numbers were extremely high. They then came back, Southern California Council of the Governments came back with a modified option 4. And so now we're down to 6,300, a little bit over that, residential units that need to be built in that window. Interestingly enough, Norco has 42 in that option. During WRCOG, we had discussion about WRCOG taking a firm stand, but when you're looking at the entire county, it's very difficult because while we're severely impacted by our boundaries, we're built out. One of the only ways we can go is up. But there are other aspects of the county, cities, and the county itself that want a lot of development and feel that this will encourage it and is beneficial for them. So I just wanted to give that past piece that I had shared before. So now I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Well, I'm going to ask Ms. Galetta to address part of this, but I'm going to weigh in relative to these numbers, through cycle are always big. There's always been the threat of some penalty for not meeting it or not making best attempt. But you come back to, we can set up zoning and other things to get these numbers, but we're not building them. And those are arm's length transactions. And so when the governor starts talking and legislatures start talking about finding cities for not meeting it, I'm going to say, send us the money to build. We're not building. We can set up the zoning to meet these things. So for years, they've talked about penalties. Will it be done this time? He's pushing pretty hard on big numbers of development. And for us to make those numbers, when you look at the history over the last 5 years of how many homes have been built in this community in a relatively upswing for construction, it'd be difficult to make that number over the next 5 years.
I think I made the case to one of the member I met from the governor's office that I said, being a slight student of history, in the 10 years following World War II in California, we didn't build as many homes as the governor wants us to build in 10 years.
Right.
With no environmental regulations and no environmental rules and plenty of land to build on, and we don't have either one of those things right now.
It's a difficult task. Ask Ms. Galetta to weigh in on overall one.
So I'm going to try to address some of the questions you have, and I do want to remind you that this is really a task that has been put on by SCAG and their staff, and we are by no means SCAG. So the methodology that they have to come up with in order to distribute the regional housing needs from Sacramento solely lies on them. It's not any one local jurisdiction. So to answer your question from Councilmember Carrillo, the number we were issued in our last cycle was during a recession. It was also coming off only a 5-year planning cycle as opposed to an 8-year planning cycle. So there was some deviation to get us back on the 8-year planning cycle. So the prior one before that, we had about 3,300 units. And then when we were trying to come in line with SCAG to realign the schedule, our RENA number in our current housing element cycle is only 770. But at that time, there was no legislation in place that really had a penalty on cities. As long as you were able to identify available sites, HCD said that was good, that was great, you made it available. They understood that it really is dependent upon a developer to come in and build. Legislation this last year alone has gotten very aggressive from the state of California. You have legislators out there that are drafting bills that are being signed by the governor to where they are holding local jurisdictions to the throne of making sure this happens. No matter how much we have said we do not build housing, we rely on developers to build housing. So yes, there is a legislation out there that will have a financial penalty. Have we ever been financially penalized? No, because that was never part of current legislation. If we did not have a compliant housing element, we would not be allowed to participate in any kind of state grant funding. So for us to have a compliant housing element, it was important for us so we can get our gas tax money, so we can do infrastructure improvements. That is still going to come into play, but it's also going to come down now to penalizing. The legislation has pretty much said that there's been too many cities out there that have been obstinate in approving housing projects, and they're going to stop that. So we have basically, in this year alone, have lost a lot of local control. I have said this before, in my 25 years in planning, I have never seen anything like this. So all of us are struggling. We talk about this all the time at WRCOG, and we are put in a position to where we are going to have to deliver, or there will be financial consequences. And I don't know what that is. Will we be tested? It takes one city to be that test case, and then everybody will see in line what happens. When you talk about, is this required of the city for Council Member Steiner or Vice Mayor Steiner? Yes. We are required by the state mandate to adopt a housing element every 8 years. That is the one thing that we are required to do. And the housing element solely focuses on housing. So we are given this number and we are required to implement it. Our housing element is due in October of 2021. We will start that planning cycle next fiscal year after July 1. We generally need about 18 months to put that into play and to get it adopted. HCD also has to certify our housing element before we can do anything. If we adopt a housing element and they don't certify it, it doesn't mean a darn thing to our city. We will have to work with them to get a certified housing element in order for the state to say it's okay to move on. So if we don't even have a certified housing element, we can be subject to penalization. They are looking at us to determine where those available sites are going to be. So I do think that this next housing element cycle is going to be very challenging for us. Again, as Councilmember West stated, the number is not final, but SCAG has indicated in this last meeting that this fourth methodology is the methodology they're going to submit to HCD. HCD still has to approve it. If they do not like their methodology, they can send back and then they have to respond and submit another methodology or respond otherwise. But right now, they threw the other three options out and they're going with this fourth option. So this was just to kind of give you an idea of where we're currently at. The executive director of SCAG made it very clear to their board that they do not see any leniency from the state. They anticipated still having about 1 million units when they challenged HCD's initial allocation. They had to submit their own RENA number. They thought it should be somewhere in around 850,000 to 900,000. And as you saw, it still came back just slightly over 1 million housing units. So they themselves as well are struggling with the number that they have been given, but they have a directive and they're moving forward with it.
Any other questions?
Thanks, John.
Anything else? Mr. City Manager, you want to share? Comments on this particular item?
Yes, I do have speaker cards for this item.
Okay, we'll open it up. Please come on down, share. As a reminder, just be sure you've turned in a blue card and please give your name and you'll have 3 minutes. Good evening.
Good evening. Tom Richens, 1031 East Grand Boulevard. Blue card is turned in.
Thank you.
Welcome. I appreciate Ms. Coletta for explaining it. I think she's done well. She's saying, look, this is what SCAG and HCD want, and that's her job, is to report what they want and comply. But there's just a time where you got to give HCD and SCAG the middle finger, and this is one of those times. We're full on housing, and we're lacking on infrastructure for more housing. And we're to the point now where we're putting housing where it shouldn't be. We're taking a 6th Street and putting residential on it. 6th Street is commercial property. That's where you put your commercial property. You put your industrial property where the industrial property goes. But because of the obnoxiousness of the state and their out of control posture, there's a time where you say, you guys can't pee in the corner in a round room. We're gonna stop and we're gonna run our city the best that we feel we need to run it. And it takes a stand. And the other cities fall in line and they say, we can't do it either. Maybe Barstow can, maybe Victorville can. But then let that place get developed. We're already developed. And we need to do what's right for our city. I follow on Facebook. The people in Norco are extremely, extremely upset because they're trying to maintain a horse town environment. And that's why they moved to that city. In Corona, we had a beautiful city. You follow the Facebook pages, you follow the historical pages and the 10 ways people love Corona pages. And they all, every one of them, every day, I miss the old city. I miss the old times. I miss when our city was great. I miss when we didn't have traffic. We're not improving. We need to improve for the better, not for the worse. And I'll remind you of the 7 Ps. Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. And that's how you address your city. You plan well, you plan smart, you don't plan to lunatics in Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I have a couple of observations and then a couple of questions. It seems like we have dozens of entitled housing projects around town. And the one they're building on Promenade in McKinley, that thing sat there from 2008. They could have built that at any time. And so it seems ridiculous to think that, because the state's going to click their heels together and all of a sudden housing is just going to appear when developers very clearly are waiting for the right time in the market when they can maximize their return. And nobody's going to build in a declining market, which is what it would be if you built enough housing to lower the prices. If you're going to lower the prices, they're going to make less money. Nobody's going to be doing that. It's just basic economics. So nobody's going to rush in when they're going to make less money tomorrow than they will today. So they're going to sit and wait, just like the people on McKinley did. They waited till they absolutely either had to do it, didn't think it was going to get renewed, or they're going to wait as long as they possibly can to make as much money on the return. So, and the other observation I would make is that there's costs either way. So, I mean, if the state was to charge us, there's a cost that we pay when we build new housing. Housing costs the city money. This is not a benefit to us. This doesn't help us. It doesn't bring in more money to the city just because we have more houses. It incurs more costs. So, we're looking at a water rate now because we have to grow the city and we have to build new pipes and, it costs more for police. It costs more for everything. It costs more for services. So houses aren't a winner for us in any way. I guess if you were to tax them, but I'm sure they're not going to want us taxing houses where we're actually going to pay they're actually going to have to pay the freight either. So who does pay for this if they were supposed to actually come? My question is, are we required to annex to do this? I mean, if we're substantially landlocked, as I hear regularly, are we required to we just build high rise? We're going to build a high rise at Citron and Taylor. We're going to build like a 10-story apartment building. Walk up with underground parking. I mean, that's one way to do it. That's certainly one way to do it. And are we required to just redevelop whole areas? Okay, well, sorry, Lowe's, you're going to have to move because we're going to put apartments covering that whole thing. How far do you have to go to meet this? If you don't have existing plots of land, or like I said, a 5,000 unit tower block on Citron and Taylor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll come back to your questions. Take your time.
Barbara?
First time I've seen you since you were running.
Can
You all look good up there.
Could you give us your name?
Thank you.
Can you give us
Jim.
your name?
I got notes on my phone.
Can you give us your name?
I hope that when you get this
She's hard of hearing.
informational report.
Can you give us your name, please?
Oh, Barbara Young. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Hi,
Thanks.
Jason.
Hi.
Met you first at the library. Okay. Anyway, I hope you take this with a grain of salt and a whole lot of expertise and listen to the people here in Corona. The Green River project that everybody is complaining about on the next door neighbor thing. If you go ahead with this building of the apartments down there and put a hotel, the traffic now, I get reports, people are spending hours on just trying to get from Dominguez Ranch Road to the freeway to get on the freeway, and they're getting cut off and everything, and it's just an absolute mess. And I would like to bring up that nobody's brought up the parking around apartments, like the Lincoln Park apartments. They're bumper to bumper on the streets. They are assigned a parking place. I have an assigned parking place where I live. And they were all given for 1 or 2 cars, however many people there are. But when they have roommates and they have to share housing, it's creating a whole bunch of extra cars that have trouble being parked. And that's because there's people that are doubling up. They can't afford their own apartment. And some of the people in there have people move in because they can't afford their own apartment either. And there's a need for housing, especially apartments, here for the people that are working class. They're going to have this thing on 6th Street that just opened up, and that's for low income, very low income. But I think there's people that are working that are above that still can't afford to pay rent. Even Sage Canyon up there, my time is running out. The Sage Canyon apartments on the mountain, the ranch road up there, on Green River. So anyway, thank you very much. It's good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Not seeing anyone. I'll come back over to City Manager. So require for annex and redevelopment.
Won't be required to annex anything. That's a determination we can make. City will have to address whatever the final arena number is. It will have to be addressed in your housing element. Some way to reach to that number at looking at current zoning, upzoning, or other requirements within the housing element to manage. And it could require some expansion of some of the zoning to meet that number. Yet to be determined, but certainly based on current zoning and things, adding these many units to us would be difficult.
It's providing the plan to do so, not we're not required to, we're not building anything. I want to make sure everybody, I understand, I keep telling people that. We're not building anything, it's just providing the framework so that we could meet those numbers if somebody came up and...
If a developer came along to develop, we would have to provide in the element enough capacity to meet these numbers, meet whatever the final number is.
And
which is probably going to be close to the number that you see today.
And isn't the city of Huntington Beach in the process of being sued for under this, an older version, but a version?
That is correct.
So somebody already is testing this. So we'll find out sooner or later, and what the penalties or how much teeth are going to be sunk into them. And I know the governor hit them first out of the gate. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
All right.
Could I address?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the last speaker, Barbara, made some comments about Sierra Doro and the horse ranch, and there's a lot of people that don't watch council meetings and hear the updates on what's going on in certain areas of town. And clearly, we've talked about the horse ranch and that property a few times now. And what many people are seeing are old maps or old specific plans where it does show hotels and apartments and this and that. And clearly we know that's not going in there, but is there any way to wipe some of that stuff offline? Because we're always battling this. And also, that property just closed escrow, as I understand it. Can we put something out? Can we put a press release out? This is a big deal. That horse ranch was a big deal to a lot of people in Corona for a long time. It's kind of one of the few things we were known for. So I would love to be able to find a way to get the real message out to the next door, to Facebook, through our city applications and social media, because most people do not tune in to a council meeting. So
That is certainly something we can look at. One of the things that, some of those projects were entitled and have been sitting for a long, long time. And when the property gets sold, then no new developer, and as that was stated earlier, is exactly true. Developer's going to wait till they believe they can make a profit. But we can certainly look at some of those projects that are getting traction now of getting something out there to the public.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And I do want to note that as part of the consent item, we had item 3F, which was approval of our new city manager, Jacob Ellis. That passed as part of the consent, and he will come on board November 25th. We are now with oral communications for the public. This is a part where
Mayor
you...
Scott, we
Yes.
need a motion for item L.
Oh, you needed a motion? I thought it was just information.
So I'll go ahead and move it.
All right.
I'll second.
Thank you for helping out there. Please vote. That passes. Okay, now oral communications from the public. This is the part of the meeting where individuals can come and speak on an item that's not on the agenda. Again, please state your name, and you have 3 minutes to share with us. First off, we have it divided into 2 groups. So the first part is nonprofits. If we have any nonprofits, please come up, and that'll be followed by general public comments. Not seeing any nonprofit, blah, 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 nonprofit. Any other comments this evening? Other than I need a speech teacher?
Evening, how you doing?
Good evening.
My name is Walter. I'm a homeowner here in Corona as well as a business owner. And I wanted to speak about the traffic congestion on Magnolia. And in specific, that would be in between Sherborne on the other side of the 15 freeway to Fullerton Avenue. Now, I've lived here for quite a while, and that area is the most congested area that I've seen in Corona. And I'm wondering if we can propose to, I guess, coordinate, maybe coordinate the lights a little better. I know that they, the high school is there. I have reached out to the traffic coordinator, Mr. Gunn at Centennial High School, and he's all on board for anything that we can do to resolve the traffic congestion there. And, that is a area with a lot of commerce. There's 18-wheelers that drive through that area all day. And, I have a child at Centennial where it takes, I would say, 20, 25 minutes just to drop off a child before I have to get to work. So I just wanted to make a proposal that some form of a traffic study. Maybe we can synchronize those lights, get some of that heavy traffic as far as the 18-wheelers off of those routes during certain hours of the day to kind of accommodate the traffic. I know it's a big accident area as well. There's a lot of accidents in that area. So I just wanted to make a proposal that something's done for this area.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you sharing. Come on up, sir.
Jason, I just wanted to add that I want to tell the gentleman that we're going to be doing some additional Facebook Live and some other things from the Traffic Management Center, and I think that area would be a great first topic for us to talk about how that's handled. So
Yeah, and I'm going to come back at the end. I took some notes as well.
Okay, great.
So I'm glad you're sharing that too. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Chris Curran. I'm a resident of Sierra del Oro, Corona, and I'd like to voice my opposition to the proposed water increases. Water rate increases were proposed for the next 5 years, 19 through 24, and they seem extreme. They're a lot. There's several different points on it. One is an increase in the charge for access to the water, for them to turn it on so that it can reach your house. They want to raise the access rate by 53% for the first year and 87% by the time that this is all completed in 2024. Second is a decrease in the allowances allowed. It's going from 24 units per household to 19, which is a 20% decrease in the amount that you're allowed to utilize. And after that, then you'll be bumped up for excessive use. In my last year, my water bill indicates that I went over once and into tier 3, and that was because I had a bad valve. But on this new option, I'll be up there into the sky, into the stratosphere all the time. And I won't be the only one. Most people will be in excess. Thirdly, the last twist of the knife in this thing is the revenue stability charges. They say they're temporary. Come on, when was the last time you ever got taxed and it was temporary? Let's be real. They want to charge you, when you're a good citizen and we go into drought management, if you're a good citizen and you cut back, well, then they lose revenue. So they want to bump up your rates so that they can keep the change in their pockets. I don't think any of this is right. It's not fair. I know life isn't fair, but we want to try and be right. Do the right thing. Please. Oppose this because it's just not right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Richens, 1031 East Grand Boulevard. I just had a couple comments. First and foremost, my Fridays start off with my wife telling me what I'm doing that evening. And for Halloween trunk or treat, my wife said we're going to the city trunk or treat, and it was great. It was fabulous, and I think to David Montgomery Scott and his team, they did a great job, and I just wanted to commend that. And we posted it on Facebook, and I got drugged right back there the next night because we had so many friends message us that they wanted to go. And so we went and cut off their heads. So it was fun and it was good, and good job, Corona. Next is one who trolls the RCTC Facebook page. I noticed that they were talking about the letter that the council sent them, and how the city council crafted a letter saying, hey, we're not happy with you, and you guys all know what you wrote, and it's been talked about. But I feel that there's mileage out of that letter, and I feel that RCTC's embraced it, and I feel that it was very noble and valiant of our council to step up and write it. And good job, council. It goes a long ways, and when you write letters like that and take actions like that, that's when you truly speak for the people of Corona. So thank you there, and I will talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Young again.
Welcome back.
I want to complain about the water bill because the place I live has another water company that they pay you guys, they pay the city of Corona, I mean, they collect for you because there's a fee that you charge them. It comes on my bill. All the water that I use is $5 a month out of $44, and then there's trash and sewer, and I realize that that's $20 and everything. But when you're looking at these 30-inch, 10-inch meters that they have and everything, and the price is going to go up, we're going to have to absorb the increase. And I went to the meeting, the DWT meeting, and I realize that you have to get your money from somewhere, but isn't there somewhere else you can raise the money besides passing it down to the consumer? I can't afford another increase in anything. And it's just, I have to have water. I buy bottled water because I don't trust the water. It shows up white on my, when the sprinklers hit my car window and it dries, it's white. That means there's a chemical residue in the water. And I don't think we use reclaimed water in our property. So I buy bottled water to drink. And I just would like some attention to that, about the quality of the water here. And I've had some reports that I've had on unsubstantiated talking back and forth on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, that the water in Corona is not up to par. So I would like you to look into that and to look at a possibility of regulating these other entities that bill us instead of you hiring personnel to bill the residents. And maybe you could hire people here. And this company is back east and they're gouging me and they don't receive my payment. If I mail it to them, they wouldn't work with Chase National Bank on bill pay. They demand a paper check and then they don't receive it, so the bank takes it back and puts it back in my account. And I've had nothing but problems with this outfit. I know who to give the information to, okay? I think you should look into that. They're unscrupulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again. I think most people in Corona would be somewhere between amused and furious to find out what the ready-to-serve fee is actually based on. I pulled the actual water rate study, and the ready-to-serve fee is based on a theoretical free flow number through the valve. So they say, okay, well, here's how many gallons you flow over a certain amount of time through a 5/8 inch hole. And they say a 3/4 valve will flow 1.5 times that, and a 1 inch valve will flow 2.5 times that. It has no real basis in reality. It has nothing to do with the demand for services or the actual cost incurred by the city to serve a house with that size valve. You can't find any I was actually going to do a record request to see if we could prove or disprove that there was a correlation between the size of valves and the services that are demanded from the city or the costs incurred by the city. I thought, well, okay, we got the rate study. Nope, nothing. It's just if you took a fire axe and whacked the pipe off the end of the valve, how much would flow? Okay, we're gonna charge you that, and then we're gonna charge the next guy a percentage more than that, and the next size valve more than that. We don't have a choice about the valve that we have. You're not allowed to change it. The city says, okay, well, you've got a 1 inch valve, you got a 1.5 inch valve, you got a 3/4 valve. The person with the 3/4 valve could use 3 times as much water. They've got a smaller ready-to-serve fee, even though they are being served or are ready to be served 3 times as much water through a smaller valve. You could have a 1.5 inch valve because you have sprinklers. By the time this deal is over, their ready-to-serve fee is going to be $125 to $150 for a 1.5 inch valve for water that they can't use. That's the most expensive fire insurance I think I could possibly think of. It's an extra $100, $125 a month that you're going to pay because you have a larger chunk of brass buried in the box out by the street. It has nothing at all to do with the services that you demand from the city that are extended to you. We're not running commercial grow operations in residential areas. Houses are houses. A house with a lawn, it's reasonable to say that whether you have a 5/8, 3/4, or 1 inch valve, your water use is going to be very similar. We ought to look at how these things are scaled. I don't care if some trade organization gave you cover to do it. The right thing to do is base the fees on the costs that are incurred by the residents. If we cost the city money for that, it ought to be based on the cost that I incur or Wes incurs or Yolanda incurs. It ought to be based on reality. That's the spirit of the law, and that's how it ought to be, not just some arbitrary theoretical construct. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Not seeing anyone. I'm going to go back here. The gentleman spoke about Magnolia and the traffic there. And Councilmember Speak, I know I jumped in there, but I want you to go ahead and restate what you were saying, because that's relative.
Thank you. It's one of the things we have, went and met with our traffic staff last week, spent some time with them, talked to them about getting a message out. In fact, I think that Councilmember Casillas also talked to those folks as well about doing an open house, which I think is great. I recommend folks all the time to go do a tour to get an understanding of how traffic is addressed in the city and how it's handled. It's very insightful, I'd say, for anybody that goes in and does that. I had asked the city manager and doing a presentation on some potential changes at El Cerrito. We're doing some incremental changes that are going to happen as improvements are done over the next year or so. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity for our staff and the traffic management department to come in and give a briefing to us on the 20th, and hopefully we'll hear a positive on that. And then that same day, I would like to do a Facebook Live and maybe a Q&A and take a topic once a quarter to do from there, and that would be a fantastic one. I know that aggravates folks quite a bit. I know that's my way to get to the freeway, so I completely understand what you're talking about, and I've asked many of those questions, the same ones that you've asked, and I've gotten some answers, but I think it'd be good to share those out with the public as well. But great topic. Thank you.
Thank you for going over that again. I did want to indicate that some years ago, we did look into the trucks that go along Magnolia, many of them coming from All-American, Vulcan, and so forth. And that's their primary access onto the freeway to go to their destinations. And we did look into seeing if there could be a dedicated lane that did not have to stop at the traffic light there. And we were told no by Caltrans. Mr. Lansdale, maybe do we now have control of the traffic lights at the on-ramp, off-ramp at the 15?
Mayor Scott, I ask Acting Public Works Director, Mr. Coper, to address that if he can.
Yes, I do not believe we have control on the timing on the Caltrans signals. The Caltrans' primary focus is to not have the on-ramps back up onto the main line. So they shorten up their cycles about half of what we would like. A good example is El Cerrito. They have the signals on the interchange going there out on about a 65-second cycle. We have ours on about a 130-second cycle. So we can flush more cars through until it hits the interchange where they stop. And sometimes you wait, and we have to keep it on a 2-to-1 so we at least can keep it somewhat balanced. If it was our goal, we would have it all at 130 and flush everybody through, but Caltrans runs the risk of cars backing up onto the freeway, which is an unacceptable risk on their half.
And I appreciate the answer. This is an important note, whether you're talking about Magnolia or any string of traffic lights in which an on-ramp, off-ramp is involved. The city, even though we can sync our lights to the best of our ability, we cannot sync their lights with our lights. The best we can do is look at their traffic lights, try to get the timing down so that we can do what Tom was just mentioning there, which becomes very difficult. And sometimes they change the signal or it gets a hiccup, and then that screws up our whole system. So we keep trying to improve it, but because of Caltrans not being willing to let us take control, they don't let any community take control, I don't believe. It makes it very difficult. But it's something we continue to watch, whether it's Magnolia or many of the other locations within the city. So, but we may do a live feed from there. And if, gentlemen, if you haven't, or anyone, if you haven't visited the Traffic Management Center, then hook up with us. Be happy to show you that as well.
Does Caltrans have public meetings? So we should direct.
Moving over to water. Mr. Lansdale, there was questions about ready to serve. decreases in water usage, the tiered, and the reserve stability charge. And I know we covered these at our, I think it was a study session, but if we could get a brief response for that speaker, that would be great.
Mayor Scott, would you like us to try to address that now, or do you want us to bring back a report that can they then present it? Know that DWP still has some meetings coming up to talk about the proposed rate, and that could be incorporated in those meetings also.
Okay, we can do that, and that's, I know that's available online, and that's coronaca.gov/DWP. And you can get that information. I think you can actually look at the study session there, but there are sessions still planned coming up, and attend those. You can actually look at your personal data there and so forth. They'll help you with all those. Okay. All right, thank you. Speaking of water, just because we're having fun, public hearing, 5A, public hearing for City Council and Corona Utility Authority, consideration to approve the report on water quality relative to public health goals for 2016 through 2018. Mr. Lansdale.
Mayor Scott, members of the City Council, I am going to defer this item to General Manager Mr. Moody, make a presentation on this. As you know, some of these technical things, I can't even pronounce the words. So I asked Mr. Moody to make a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity tonight. We have a responsibility as a water agency that has over 10,000 connections to every 3 years come back and report on any exceedances within the public health goals that are established by the state of California, Cal EPA. Going through tonight, we're going to talk just briefly about public health goals, the report that were required, and any constituents that are detected that exceeded any public health goals. Public health goals are non-enforceable. That's very important because they're just guidelines that are set by the Cal EPA, and we do look at them and we do consider them. And some of the things that we look into is whether or not those goals are achievable, either through current technologies, best available technologies, and also financially. Sometimes the goals are set so low that they're not financially achievable, and the state does take that into consideration in a lot of areas. The public health goal is established for constituents. They may or may not also have an enforceable maximum contaminant level. The maximum contaminant level is the enforceable objective for the water utilities, and that is the one that we are always below in all cases. Public health goal report, according to the state of California, the Health and Safety Code Section 116470, the goal is required for us to report out any exceedances that we've had. This is both in our raw water and our treated water. So similar to other constituents, we also have to report what's in our raw water. And we'll get into that just a little bit. A public health goal, if a public health goal is not adopted, then water suppliers use the maximum contaminant level goals. This is different than the MCL, which is the maximum contaminant level, but it's a goal or an objective for us that we will use. The constituents which have an established maximum contaminant level, a public health goal, or an MCLG, we have to report on all of these aspects. And then we prepare this report every 3 years, and that's done by July 1st. The report is not given to anyone. It's an internal document for us. We do have to maintain it, and then we will bring that and report it out. The report that we have today is 2009. This report is covering the fiscal years of the years of 2016, 2017, and 2018. And it is, the state of California has not prepared any official documents regarding the public health goals. The Association of California Water Agencies prepared suggested guidelines for water utilities to follow for these reports, and our staff uses those guidelines in preparing any of the reports. 3 constituents that were included in this year's report is arsenic. Arsenic is a naturally occurring element in the Earth's crust and is widely distributed throughout the environment. The public health goal for arsenic is 0.004 parts per billion. The maximum contaminant level is, the enforceable standard is 10 parts per billion. The average level in the arsenic in our raw water system was 2.2 parts per billion, so naturally occurring in our area, it's fairly low. And then the calculated average after treatment and blending was 0.103 parts per billion. The best available technology for treating arsenic is reverse osmosis, and that is one of the treatment practices that the city of Corona utilizes. Gross alpha particles is one of the other contaminants that we talk about in our public health goal. Growth alpha is the measurement of alpha radiation emitted by a naturally occurring source undergoing alpha decay. For our area, or the maximum contaminant level goal is 0, and this is in picocuries per liter. Picocurry. Yeah. Picocuries per liter is a trillionth of a gram. So we are looking at the maximum contaminant level is 15 picocuries per liter. The average level of gross alpha that was detected in our raw water supplies was 11.6, and then the calculated after treatment and blending was 0.089. Again, the best method for treating gross alpha particles is reverse osmosis, which is one of the units of treatment that we employ for the city. Coliform bacteria is an indicator organism. They are throughout the environment and naturally occurring. DWP collects between 150 to 120 to 150 samples every month for coliform analysis. There is no public health goal set for coliform, and the US EPA sets a maximum contaminant level goal of 0. The maximum contaminant level is no more than 5% positive samples in any one month, and you can see through the years of 2016 through 2018, we had less than 1% of our samples during the month were positive for coliform. When we have a positive coliform hit, we have a response that we have to do. And so that response is that we have to take a sample upstream, downstream, and again at that same source. We also have to sample all of our raw water sources for coliform positive. I'm happy to report that none of the resamples were positive for coliform. And really sometimes what happens is this is a really tough test. So if it's a windy day, we can get a coliform hit. If something happened during the sample process, we can get a coliform hit. So we take great care in pulling our samples, and we pull them on a regular basis. But sometimes things happen and we do get a hit, and we'll go back and again sample upstream, downstream, and again at the source, and all of those samples have always come back in a negative. The best available technology for inactivating coliform bacteria in drinking water is protection of the wells from contamination. Our wells are locked. They're in a safe, clean environment. We take good care of them. We make sure that they're clean at almost all times, and there's really no access to the groundwater other than through a valve or a port or something of that nature. So that's how we protect them from contamination in that regard. We also use disinfectant residuals throughout the distribution system of chloramines. This is a long-lasting residual, and it doesn't have as many results for byproducts as just straight chlorine-free chlorine residuals. So our average chlorine residual throughout the system in these years was 1.84 milligrams per liter or parts per million. Proper maintenance of the distribution system, and then filtration and disinfection of surface and groundwater, which is part of the treatment process, and that is established after all treatment. All processes of our water go through a disinfection. Drinking water quality meets all standards of the California and the US EPA. We continue and strive to do that on a daily basis. We deliver over 10 billion gallons of water annually to our constituents. The levels of the constituents identified in this report are significantly below the health-based maximum contaminant levels established to provide safe drinking water. And further reductions in these levels would require additional costly treatment, and there is not much identified gain in establishing that higher level of treatment for what we currently do so far, for the cost associated with that. So that we, at this point, are not moving forward with addressing the levels any lower than we currently are through our current best available technology practices. I'm available for any questions.
Not seeing any here. Public comment? Any correspondence?
The city clerk's office did not receive correspondence.
Very good. We'll close the public hearing. Is there someone would like to make a motion on this?
The city manager wanted to.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
The mayor covered me. I didn't think he had opened and closed the public hearing, so.
I want to say that, but maybe after we've closed it, just to say thank you to Mr. Moody and his staff for putting that together. I know that it's quite a bit of work and another testament to how good your folks are. Thanks.
Absolutely. Is there a second on this motion?
I'll say.
Please vote. The item passes. Next up, we have item 6A, City Council consideration of an ordinance number 3306. First reading of an ordinance of the City of Corona, California for amending various chapters within the Title 15 of the Corona Municipal Code, adopting by reference the 2019 California Building Standards Code. Anybody want an update? If not, then we're going to need a...
Mayor Scott, I do have a speaker card for this item.
Okay. Thank you. Come on down. While you're there, could you read the whole ordinance for us?
I was hoping.
Copy, you need a copy, Tom?
I memorized it last
Okay, good.
night. It's 19-0942, City Council consideration. Tom Richens, 1031 East Grand Boulevard. As a lover of Corona history, part of the 2019 Historical Building Code addresses the Mills Act. And it's specifically what it does is it gives great leniency to the local jurisdiction, and the local jurisdiction being the city of Corona. I don't want to mention a city employee by name. He worked for the city of Anaheim and he governed the Mills Act there. And he's super strict. And we had 5 applicants last year that tried to get on the Mills Act, and this dude whittled them down to 1. And that's not the spirit of the Mills Act. The Mills Act is to protect our historical properties. And we still have a lot. We've wrecked a few, but we still have a lot. And we need to reel this employee in a little bit. I get that Anaheim has their way of doing things and they kept their Carnegie, but we got rid of our Carnegie, so we need to be nicer to history. And we need all 5 homeowners that have historical houses to apply for Mills Act. We don't need a city employee walking through their kitchen and pointing out code corrections and pointing out building violations. I've done construction for 30 years. I could walk through this room and point out building defects, but that's not the purpose of it. The point of the Mills Act is to protect our history. We have a circle, it's full of old houses. We have outside perimeter houses. We need to embrace this 2019 Mills Act directive. This is the one thing they did get right. So I want to put that on record now. I'll hammer it hard in the future when you guys take up Mills Act. But just note that the 2019 Historical Code gives broad leverage to the local authority, you guys being the local authority. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there somebody who wants to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
No, you got to read this one. It's an ordinance. Sorry.
Where do I start?
It says recommendation.
Recommendation, oh my gosh, introduced by title only and waive full reading for consideration of Ordinance 3306. First reading of the ordinance amending chapters 15.02, 15.04, 15.05, 15.07, 15.08, this is the short version. 15.09, 15.10, 15.11, 15.12, 15.20, 15.28, and section 15.06080, and adding chapter 15.54 to Title 15 of the Corona Municipal Code, adopting for, by reference, the 2019 edition of the California Building Standards Code, parentheses, California Code of Regulations, Title 14, including the 2019 California Building Code, the 2019 California Green Building Codes, Building Standards Code, the 2019 California Residential Code, the 2019 California Mechanical Code, the 2019 California Energy Code, the 2019 Historical Building Code, yay, and the 2019 California Existing Building Code, 2019 California Fire Code with errata. I love that word, errata. And 2019 California Plumbing Code and the 2019 California Electrical Code, together with certain additions, insertions, deletions, and changes thereto.
And I do want to note that at the dais here, there were some changes made, and they're in red, and there's a copy over at the city clerk's area if you wish to take a quick look. So did you want to read that again?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, and I think Councilwoman Correa, you second that? Okay. Please vote. That item passes partly because you did a great job. Next up, City Council Member oral written reports and comments regarding regional boards and commissions. We're getting an update from Councilman Speak on the Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting of October 17th.
I think, is this the one that you filled in for me, Jim?
No.
Thank you very much for the report. Apparently, we're moving on to.
I'll just do a really quick. There's two things. One two things that went down very positive. One, $66 million was allocated from RCTC to the 7191 interchange. Really great step. It is approved, but getting funding into those pieces to ensure they keep going forward are really important. And I want to thank my fellow commissioners for approving that piece. And also the approvals for the 241-91 connectors, basically the connection between the toll lanes and the 91 to the 241. Those went forward as well, and they're going to be synced with the three other projects on the 91. And those projects, I think, will, especially when that project gets going on the westbound side, and unfortunately, it's not going to be for a few years, but it's really going to make a difference and really drain that neck of the woods pretty fast. And I'm pretty excited about it. Hopefully, the other pieces that will come on, which is the auxiliary lane from Green River, the 241, will be complete by then, and as will the 91 or the 15 southbound to the 91 westbound tolling connector. Will pull additional cars off the main line as well.
Very good. Next up, an update from Councilwoman Casillas on the Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority meeting of November 4th. Were you there?
No, I was there.
I was at that one.
He wasn't there either. The biggest thing is that Director Charles Landry is retiring at the end of this year. Yeah, he's a really good guy. So Charlie's leaving, but the great thing is that we're in the interim. Former Riverside County Supervisor and former RCA Director, Mr. Tom Mullen, will be standing in. Also a great choice. So he was already a director, and we're going to start the nationwide search for a new RCA Director. And the species of the month for Mr. Speak was the Santa Ana River Woolly Star. It's a flower.
It's characterized by its stamen length.
Oh my gosh, you read the report.
No, I just know.
There you have it. Thank
That's how you
you.
can tell if it's a boy or a girl plant.
Okay, it's getting exciting here. City managers report, city attorney, any report? City managers report, comments? You're up, Mr. Lansdale. It notes here Sierra Peak Craft Ranch.
We have the presentation. We have the presentation queued up for me.
It's coming up.
Right.
Ms. Edwards, does he need a few more minutes? I can go to Ms. Carrillo and we'll do one update and come back?
Yes, please.
Okay. Comments?
Sure. Okay, on October 17th, I was able to go to the annual Family Values Award at the Church of Latter-day Saints, and we had 3 honorees. It was a great evening, and they said that it was like the most attendance over the last 13 years, so they were very happy with it, and a few of us colleagues went also. On the 18th, the Chamber of Commerce, State of the City, it had a business focus, and it was led by our Mayor Scott. He did a great job, Jason. And October 19th, Give Cancer the Boot Walk over at JFK High School in Norco. There was about 1,000 community members raising money for Support Sisters, a group that helps people go through cancer treatments. And October 26th, the 25th anniversary celebration of Eduardo's. And that was attended also with lots of community folks and lots of families, live music, fun. It was really fun. And I do know that the Corona Police Department has helped keep this restaurant open over the last 25 years. It was one of the first restaurants I was taken to by one of the chiefs in town at that time. So on November 1st, the Chamber of Commerce held a legislative outreach informational meeting with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association. And there have been some key pieces of legislation moving in the state capitol regarding Prop 13. Its focus is on commercial property right now, but it may move to residential at some point also. So we need to keep an eye on that. November 2nd, I was here for the DWP community meeting in council chambers on the proposed water rate increases. I urge everyone to attend or watch the video of one of these presentations to learn about it. There are many tools online to help you calculate what the increase would look like on your water bill. But most importantly, it will help you understand the why question, why there needs to be a water rate increase. And I do have a question, though, regarding those valves that are put into homes. It doesn't need to be answered now, but my question is, who determines what valves they are and why? How does that determination made? Okay, I do want to know that. And let's see. On November 2nd, I attended the re-grand opening of the Institute of Sports and Education on Pomona Road. And they have many programs for children of all ages, skill building and character building. And it was a really great place to be with lots of families and lots of baseball going on there, baseball instruction. And on November 2nd, I attended the Amber Ways of Grain. Great event, veteran fundraiser for veterans. But there was so many veterans enjoying themselves that day. There were hundreds of them. And it was very well attended also. And it was great weather. And that was a marathon day for many of the council. We were back-to-back events that day. We also went to the volunteer luncheon. Turned out really nice. We had a really good turnout there also. Every year, you guys do such a good job on that, the library. November 6th, I attended the Lazy Dog opening. That was today. We had the ribbon cutting today. And it's a really great restaurant. I hope everybody tries it. It has a lot of comfort food that's a little upscaled, and the menu is intense. They have lots and lots of choices. So you're going to want to go out and try it. They also have a huge patio, and you're allowed to bring your pets with you. So that's also a great amenity there. And it's in the Costco Shopping Center off McKinley. And also today, I attended the Corona Police held a dedication for their Wall of Honor to veterans. And this wall is a tribute to all veterans from all the different armed forces. Many veterans attended also, and there was a video shown. And it was telling the story of enlisted men and their journeys through their time serving. It made me emotional by the end. And I remember one of the quotes from the video. It was, "Freedom is not free." And I thought that said it all. So many have given their lives for our freedom. And I'll leave it there. And maybe our video's ready now? Not yet?
Thank you.
If it's not ready, I have one more comment to make for our gentleman that spoke today.
Okay, go ahead.
Walter, I didn't get his last name, but he's a homeowner, business owner. He spoke about the traffic on Magnolia. So the issue that we're having is that we are not allowed to dictate what the other signals are towards the freeway. But I understand that there are community meetings that he can attend through Caltrans or RCTC. So maybe we need to have that information available for people who are trying to figure out what to do with all of this traffic issues that we don't control.
Good idea.
So that they can stand up there and let them know what their issues are.
Thank you.
That's it.
We're ready, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Lansdale.
Just in time. Tim cut me off.
Mayor Scott and members of the City Council, question's been raised again whether the two storm drains that were cleaned following the 2018-19 rain season were public. We'll note that throughout the city, gravity drains, open drains, and laterals, 72% of the ones in the city are public, owned by the city of Corona. Only 15% are private. So as I go through this, just keep that in mind. The slides that I'm going to run through will identify the public storm drains included within Track Map 28999 in green and commonly known as Sierra Peak or Craft Ranch. And they're different from the private storm drains identified by the red designations. I think in the previous presentation to council, we showed the easements that were granted to the city pursuant to track map number 28999. When it was approved by the city was provided easements over the property based on the ownership statement in the previous slide, in addition to dedicated easements over all the streets, lots A through I. The storm drains are included within the list of authorized easement purposes. Identified on this map are the storm drain system contained within the development. Those designated in green are those ones that are designated as public, and the ones in red, private. This overview of the storm drain system for the tract consisted of both private and public storm drain, as called out in the storm drain improvement plans that were prepared by Hunsaker and Associates. The slide identified both the public and the private lines and their corresponding numbers. Lines highlighted in yellow, examples used on slides coming forth below. Private line D is highlighted on the slides that will next few slides, and not relevant to this cleanup work as they were private. Public line A1, sheet 15, and public line A2 were the locations of the cleanup work that's in question. The slides show the overview of the two culverts that were cleaned out, line A1 and A2 in green, as indicated on these slides. Public lines A1 and A2 depicted on the previous slides, and the picture that was on the left was part of the agenda report by which the contract for the work was approved, and the locations of the work indicated in the picture matched those indicated on the slide 5 for lines A1 and A2. This next slide was put in to show the designation of the private storm drain system, much smaller than those box culverts that we'll see in a few minutes. You will note that each red designation for line D, D1, D2, it says private SD, private storm drain. As shown, those 4 boxes, lines D1 through D3, are referenced as private storm drains. None of the public designation ones have anything indicating that they are private. All the private lines on the plans, for clarification, were referenced as private storm drains. To distinguish between what I just talked about as designated as private, you will note on this drawing, line A1, which was one of the areas that was cleaned out, there is no private designation. The A1 provides no indication that it's private, thus it is public. All the public storm drains for Track Map 28999 are referenced in this manner, and essentially, unless a line is marked as private, it is a public facility. All the public lines on the storm drain lines on the following lines are referenced as public, and they're on each of the sheets corresponding as represented there. Line A2, which was the other area that was cleaned up, you'll see no private designation, so therefore public. Indicated line 2 has no indication that it's private, thus it's public. All the public storm drains for the track map are referenced in that manner, and essentially, unless as previously shown, they were marked as private, it is a public facility. These are the single and double barrel reinforced concrete culverts that were cleaned. Both lines A1 and A2 being public. These were the areas of the focus of the cleanup, and you'll see that essentially the debris coming down from the fire blocked those culverts, making it difficult for water to pass. Go to next, please. City Council approved in October of 2002, the city entered into a public improvement agreement with the developer for track map 28999. Public improvement agreements are used to guarantee the construction by the developer of improvements which will be dedicated and accepted by the city. The public improvements for this community included not only the storm drains, but also streets, sewers, water facilities, a water pump station, grading, and engineering monuments. The public improvements were completed and eventually accepted by the city in August of 2012. Next, please. There have been references to the HOA and the CC&Rs Association easement areas as depicted on this slide. Next slide, please. Some of the confusion raised about association easement areas, which is defined, referenced in the HOA, CC&Rs, described in those exhibits previously shown. The confusion stems from the fact that Exhibit A references storm drains along with other structures on individual lots which are to be maintained by the HOA. However, as outlined in those slides, they are both private and public storm drains throughout Tract Map 28999. Thus, it's not surprising to see the CC&Rs mention the obligation of the HOA to maintain the private storm drains as the CC&R set forth the relative rights and obligations of the HOA to come onto private individual lots for such purpose. Next slide, please. The CC&Rs do not and typically would not have a discussion about what facilities are public and which are private. This is not the function of the CC&Rs. Rather, the CC&Rs substantially address the corresponding rights and obligations of the HOA, the property owners vis-a-vis each other, including those involving private improvements. For instance, in that Article 1, Section 7 of the CC&Rs, the association easement areas defined to mean and refer to certain landscaping slopes, walls, and storm drains which the association is responsible for maintaining and which are located on individual lots and off-site. It's not referring to all facilities such as public facilities, just private facilities. This is because the CC&Rs do not typically address maintenance of public facilities. It further provides the HOA shall have a non-exclusive easement for maintenance purposes over the association easement area. Finally, CC&Rs do not typically create easements in favor of the city or otherwise include much detail regarding the city easement rights or obligation. As is the case with Tract Map 28999, the city typically attains its easement rights for large developments on the tract map. Mayor Scott and members of the City Council, the city to date has spent $455,337.28. I probably should defer this next comment to the city attorney, but I will tell you that looking at those culverts and what we cleaned out, had we not done that, the city's potential liability for something bad to happen if they would have backed up water upstream, those culverts are not only for that tract, but for the areas above it regionally, not specific to that tract.
I don't think I could have said it better. I'm confident that we own the 2 storm drain locations that were being cleaned. I'm confident that the improvement plans were designed as plans of a mostly public storm drain system, thus the no need to indicate which are public. They just indicated the few that were private, and everything else is public because they're designed to be improvement plans to that the city can improve as their public storm drain improvement plan. So I believe that's typical, and I don't find it to be unusual that the public portions of those improvement plans also have a stamp that says these are public. So I'm confident that the 2 storm drain areas are areas that we owned, that we're responsible for, and had we not cleaned them, that would be an issue for us. So,
All right. Thank you both for the information.
Mayor Scott, I do have 2 speaker cards for this item.
Okay, very good.
First off, I want to thank Mr. Lansdale for putting the report online. We can disagree, about where this is going or where it went, but I do appreciate the fact that you put the report online. I've been asking for that, and you did it. So credit where credit's due. Thank you very much for doing that. A little bit of history. So this is, I forget what iteration of the story it is. The story the day after, the day after this was approved was, well, we had to do it because the HOA couldn't afford to do it. There was no mention that they're ours. The mention was, well, we had to do this because of A, B, or C, because they couldn't afford it. So there was no, all of this other stuff has kind of come out of the woods. I think most people would, again, somewhere between bemused and shocked to find out that we just automatically assume things. There is no mention in any document anywhere that we assumed responsibility for these storm drain documents. I've asked, dared, cajoled, teased, bugged, harassed, whatever you want to say, to show me somewhere a document that names these things and explains the consideration. I don't have to explain this to the city attorney, but to have a deal, there has to be some kind of consideration. We have to get some kind of public benefit out of this. This is not our water. This is not our runoff. This comes onto private property. It's in the middle of private property. It was not built to a city standards. That's why it costs $500,000 to clean out one streets or two streets worth of drains, because there's no access. This was built for aesthetics by the tract. This was not built like a regular culvert where you can have driving access. They had to crane equipment down to there. That's why it cost so much money. I think one of the crane contracts was $200-something thousand just for access to this. So these people don't pay into the LMDs like everybody else in Sierra del Oro. They opted out because it was too expensive. They own all the land back to the forest for quite a distance. This is their water, this is their mud, this is their brush, these are their culverts. You can't point anywhere and to say that, well, because somebody didn't write private on it, that it's not private. You can't show me anything that it says public. Nothing. There's nothing in the blue paper, the accepted improvements. There's nothing explicitly in the original agreement to do the public improvements. There's nothing. So this has been a shell game, and this has been nothing but sort of Mr. Moody trying to fix a problem, and it seemed like we got in over our head, and it cost us a ton of money, and we never should have been up there doing this. Thank you very much.
Tom Richens, 1031 East Grand Boulevard. I've been following this issue just because I get phone calls from Joe once a month. But it is alarming, and as one who does enjoy city politics, and as one who loves our city and city leaders, I do detect deception on the city's behalf. And it bothers me. It bothers me greatly. I feel that there's a cover-up in play. And I feel that home tract, they own the property. And I'd like to make some points as to why I feel that way, and then you can judge from there. As Joe mentioned, the access to the easements, the access to the culverts. When a city says, hey, we're going to put our culverts on your property, we want our vehicles to access them, you'll follow our rules and build what we need so we can get our vehicles down there. That's not the case in this point. And so no city standards were applied. Why were no city standards applied? I believe because they're privately owned. Or city standards would be applied to the easements. You wouldn't be craning equipment down there. I'm not even sure how safe it was to put people down there, to be honest with you. But that's a different issue. Next, if the city owns these drains, produce the logs. Produce the logs where they cleaned them over the years. We've had these things, according to the report, the city has owned them for years. Produce the logs. How many city employees were down there over the years cleaning them out? We record everything. We're getting water rate increases so we can record everything. Produce the logs. What dudette for the city was down there working? Or was it because of neglect on the city that these things were filled? Or was it neglect on the homeowners association that these were filled? So we got a problem there. Next, find another development in Corona where this condition exists. Show me a homeowners association. We have a lot of developments in the city. Show me a homeowners association, pull up some blueprints, and compare. Hey, here's a association 3 neighborhoods over where we own two drains, 2 culverts, and the homeowners association takes care of the rest. Let's see the standard on that. My note 5, ownership. Who has the legal ownership? Is it the homeowners association or is it the city? It's got to be recorded, right? When I buy a house, I got to pay a lot of money to record. Next, last, I still don't know why Jonathan Daly left this city in a hush-hush way. And maybe I don't, but I feel like when Jonathan left, something was covered up there.
All right. We're up to. Oh, okay, sure.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Durla, thank you for saying that. The Vice Mayor and I really, and I want to thank the city manager for putting this together. I know that a tremendous amount of work went into it and really highlighting and defining what all these terms meant because they were new to me and new to the Vice Mayor. And we wanted to make sure we set the record straight. And I appreciate the extra time that went into putting this together. For me, looking at how this was done, my first question to the city attorney at the time and again today, which is if we had to litigate this, one way or the other, either we're asking the HOA for the money or if we were being sued because there was damage that came from this. And the answer is it would be on us. So I see this $475,000. Yes, it's a big number. And I think some of those questions are good questions about whether or not this exists in other places in the city. But in the end, it doesn't matter. We don't have a time machine that goes back and we could redo this or doing it a different way or find some other way to do this. I think that in the end, this is what we have. The information that the city manager and the department head provided for us to look at is compelling. It may not be as clean as the public would like it to be, but it's what legally the city attorney, and I guess I'm going to ask you for an affirmative. I guess I'm leading up to the affirmative or for you to give me your answer. Whether or not that, and I'll ask you again because I wanted to ask you in public, if we didn't do this and it caused damage downstream, would we be liable for that? And if we tried to approach the HOA to get reimbursed for this, what chance would we have?
We couldn't get reimbursement from the HOA. We would be held responsible. Of course, we have certain immunities and all that, but we are responsible for these 2 portions of the storm drain based upon, staff's review of these plans, and I'm looking at the plans. It's clear to me that they're public. And that's, just to address some of the comments that were brought up, first of all, Mr. Morgan and I have had a lot of fun conversations over the years about a lot of things, and he's often right on some of his legal analysis, but he is also often wrong as well. And in this particular situation, this is not a contract. He's talking about consideration. Consideration is a necessary component of a contract. This is not a contract. We have a public health and safety obligation to create and maintain storm drains to prevent houses from being flooded and other property, obviously. That's what we're doing here. And Mr. Moody and Mr. Lanscale can tell you how much of the storm drain facilities throughout the city are public. We're not being compensated by anybody to do those things. It's our city obligation to protect the public health and safety. That's what this is. It would be helpful to understand the difference between the facilities. These facilities that we're talking about that are being cleaned on this property, we're not put in there for visual appearance. They're regional facilities that happen to go through private property. This property might be unique. There might not be a lot of other situations where so much public storm drain facilities run through one large development. But just because of the particular location and the flows coming down from the mountains in this particular situation, there's very large regional facilities that are on that property. You're not going to make public property owners responsible for those sorts of facilities. They're too important. It's too important to the public health and safety. So there's no shell game. Paperwork can always be better. Paperwork can always be more clear. But to Mr. Richard's point, you're not going to find a recorded document on a personal piece of property. You don't go in and record with the county ownership of a regional storm drain facility. The easements are recorded, but there's no document. There's no place to go and record and say this facility is owned by the public. It's a piece of personal property, so to speak, not real property. So you're not going to find a recorded document to show that. So we would love to be able to produce a piece of paper to their satisfaction, but from staff's point of view, it's clear that we asked them to build these things. We asked them to build certain things that were private and certain things that were public. We accepted those facilities. From that point going forward, Tom's department has treated them as public facilities and has acted accordingly. In this particular situation, maybe and I don't even know this, the cleanup here in this situation is much larger than ever had been needed in the past. Maybe that's why things are different or noticed or what have you. But to my knowledge, from the time we accepted the facilities, staff has consistently treated them as public facilities and has cleaned them. I don't know if Tom has more to add to this or Mr. Lansdale does, but paperwork can always be better. But I'm confident in this situation, what they cleaned are public facilities, and it's our obligation as a city to maintain those and keep them free of debris to protect property and people.
Okay. Councilwoman Casillas.
Great, thank you. Since last we met, we've been able to hold the 2 community meetings for the Cdbg plan, and I just wanted to give kudos to both Ms. Cynthia Lara and Mr. Clint Whited for a well-executed community engagement plan. Both meetings were well-attended. I believe we had about 15 residents in both, and one of them was located here at City Hall, and the other was located at St. Edward's Catholic Church in their multipurpose room. And thank you to St. Edward's Church for that partnership. They gave us the space, and we had a majority of Spanish-speaking residents who live in the Cdbg area in attendance. And Ms. Cynthia Lara was able to translate the entire presentation and speak in Spanish, and it was really lovely to see. So it was, I'm just very proud, and Ms. Coletta, very proud, and you should be, and I know you are, of your team and their execution of this plan. Thank you. I was able to participate in the UCR State of Women in the Inland Empire. I was both interviewed and participated as a panel speaker on, I believe it was last week. And the findings are not surprising. In the Inland Empire, the earnings gap of women to men is 68 cents to a man's dollar. And the gap widens. The earnings are worse for women of color. And even when you're holding for an education, so women who are educated with a 4-year degree comparable to men with a 4-year degree, the gap is still there. It's 75 cents to a dollar, and the gap grows. So if you're interested, check out that report. The great thing about this report is there were also policy recommendations of ways that we can work as decision makers to bring more women to the table, to create a more equitable workspace and more equitable policies. And so I was proud to participate and proud to see that put together, and I hope to leverage our educational institutions in the area to push for better policies. Lazy Dog is in town, and I'm looking forward to everyone visiting District 1. We are, I'm just very proud of it. And you'll see me there with my pup. But it has energized everyone in the city, and we are very excited. Hopefully no other businesses are feeling jealous. We're gonna have to go pay some love over to the others, but we're very, very excited to have them here. And lastly, and I don't wanna embarrass anyone, but I think this, recently there was just, I think it was a day or two ago, there was emergency here at City Hall, and 2 of our very own responded to a pulse point notification, and were able to step in and help a Corona resident here. And I just wanted to commend Miss Carrie Smith, who's from the Corona Fire Safety Foundation volunteer, and all-around amazing woman, and Mr. Ryan Cortez for both being trained, first aid, CPR. I mean, they got the pulse point, they ran down, and they made all the difference. And I wasn't here, but I've been told that your quick response was what made the difference. So I'm glad you were here. That's it.
Councilman Speak.
Thank you, sir. Wow, we did a lot the last few weeks. I was just kind of getting tired again thinking about all the stuff. Councilman Carrillo said a lot of the things they went to. So I'm not going to hit every single one of them, but I'm going to hit the things that I did or I found particularly fun, even though I think most of it I had a great time. I participated in the cemetery stroll that Corona Genealogical Society puts on, or has put on for several years. They take a little bit of a break, but this one was very good. It was focused on Corona residents that were killed. They died during the flu epidemic of 1918. Had folks that acted out people either that had passed away or relatives of folks that had passed away. It was a very good program, and I'm bummed they only did it for one day, but I know that it's a huge production for them, and hopefully, folks, we can get next year get more people there. It was really interesting, and getting a chance to visit the cemetery. It's a pretty neat place. The Amber Waves of Green, I had a great time. The vice mayor and I made it after, I think, our marathon day. And unfortunately, my day didn't end there. I had a couple more things to get to. But I was kind of walking around and really struck with the idea that this is turned into, or in a short amount of time, I think this is only the third or fourth year, that it's really coming to be a Corona signature event, I would say, on the level of Lobster Fest. I don't want to make any of the Corona Rotary folks jealous. It's a great event and really well attended. It was just a great time walking around and seeing folks and talking to people and seeing veterans and seeing the historic memorabilia and being in Dos Lagos and seeing how we're incorporating businesses, and businesses were happy it was there. So I was really happy to see that, and hopefully they can expand it. I mean, they had a tank. I mean, they had a World War II tank. That was awesome. And let people crawl all over it, which was awesome. I did not get in it. I really wanted to, but I had to race. I didn't know you could get in it, otherwise I would have. Oh, and they had a parade. And a parade, a military parade. That was really cool. We all attended the DWP meeting. I will tell folks, watch that if you haven't. It's very important. You're going to learn a lot. You may not agree with everything, but I think you're going to learn something. Please go. And I tell anybody that's really questioning about their water bill, please go and check out the calculator. I had no idea. I checked my number, ended up being, I'm going to see an $18 a year increase. And folks, I think it's one thing to remember, that yes, there are some numbers that are going up, but on the other side, there are the actual water charges are going down. So do it. Just, you can go to the calculator. It's pretty easy to use. It only does the first year, and I think I've talked to Mr. Moody about maybe trying to find a way to do other years, but I understand it's a little more difficult, and maybe we'll get that. But if you haven't gone to one of these informational meetings, it's very good. I think we only had an hour set aside. I think Mr. Moody talked for 2.5 hours, answered every single question in the room, and I was happy to be here and able to do that. And hopefully more folks take you up on that. And if you can't attend a meeting, and I don't have them in front of me right this second, they have been, at least that one has been videoed. I really enjoyed my time at Eduardo's and seeing Marta so happy and her family. 25 years in Corona is really great, and they have done a fantastic job there, and hopefully they're there for another 25 years or more. Today, I think most of us attended Principal for the Day. I was at Orange Elementary and had a really amazing time seeing what these kids are doing, and at the age they're doing it. I don't remember doing some of this stuff, until I was in high school or in junior high. So seeing these grade school kids go through and using computers and as 4 and 5 or 5 and 6 year olds is really, really cool. Did have a chat with those folks about some of their crosswalk issues, and I think I sent an email to Mr. Coper and Chief Johnstone. I got an email back from Mr. Coper that we're looking at doing some improvements when Valencia is done. So I think that there's some folks there that'll be very, very happy to hear that, and I'll make sure I pass it on to the principal there. And I want to thank them for being so kind and generous with their time and walking me around and interrupting all the teachers. So I apologize again for interrupting the teachers, especially right in the middle of reading, and they look at you and go, "Come on, really?" Lazy Dog, my 3rd time, I think, at the location there, my 5th time or 6th time in the week, because I've been at other Lazy Dogs, just happened to be there. Got to meet the owner, one of the owners today. Great guy, and I'll repeat everything that Jackie said. You got to try it. It's a great location, and a great, the architecture is really cool. The food is amazing. Servers were on point, even, just only had a couple days worth of work, and I was, really happy. I did spend some time at FutureLink today, getting a little tour of the location. They have a nonprofit. They're donating 50 computers to Temesco Valley Elementary, and they're looking at doing some more STEM, pushing some STEM stuff out to some of the schools. And it really interesting. I was talking to one of the owners, and he's in tech. He actually invented Desktop 365. It's this is a companion to Office 365. Brilliant guy, and I was asking him about how can we get more tech jobs in Corona? How can we, make Corona more attractive to tech jobs? And kind of what he said really made sense to me. If you can get kids here, if you can get the parents to look at Corona Norco Unified School District, to go look at schools that are going to offer STEM and offer stuff that isn't offered other places, parents are going to go where their kids can get the best education. And I'd like to see, I know I'm not on that committee, but I'd like to see their ideas and technology and how we can push more of that stuff out to the schools. And I think it's a fantastic an economic development idea that we can really work and push and use in our marketing to some of these locations. You look at the real estate, especially some of the Class A buildings that are going in Dos Lagos, they're about the same price, maybe a little bit less than some of the stuff in Irvine. So we're not going to get people just based on the numbers. We have to find some other ideas and other things to do that. And I think partnering with the district is a great idea. We talked a little bit about RCTC earlier. I did want to say that after the council, we put forward our resolution. The vice mayor and I met with Ann. I think I talked about that last time. But we got a follow-up letter from Ms. Mayor that she wrote to the district director, District 8 in San Bernardino, advocating for auxiliary lanes on the 15, both north and southbound, starting at Wyrick and going all the way to the 91. She's asked Caltrans to perform a project study report, a PSR report, which is the preliminary step to doing environmental and identifying what costs would be. This is very important. I think that as residents, as a city, we need to continue to follow up with our state representatives and with Caltrans to ensure that this is something that needs to happen. It's very important to us, and not just to the city of Corona. It's all of our neighbors to the south. I met with Supervisor Jeffries and Commissioner / Council Member McGee in Lake Elsinore last week as well, and we discussed widening. They have a 15 corridor committee that they meet occasionally and talk about corridor issues. I kind of asked to help. I'd like to be part of that committee to talk about. So it's basically, Corona is the mouth of the funnel for our folks to the south and an economic engine for those people. And we all need to work together and be pushing both RCTC and Caltrans and our state and in fact even federal government, the FHWA, because that is a Interstate 15. It is a interstate, so we can get some money and some attention, so it doesn't all fall on RCTC. And I will repeat this: RCTC is only building toll lanes because no one else is funding them. We don't have much of a choice. We are a self-help county. Without that information or without that money, we could be not building anything. The state has decided that building additional capacity on any of our roads is greenhouse gas inducing. So we're trying to get around that by calling these extra pieces between Wyrick and the 91, we're calling them auxiliary lanes, which they really are, providing some additional room to move through the canyon. And hopefully we can find a way to get those programmed before the 15 express lanes project starts. That's a project that is going to environmental review. In fact, there'll be next week, there are 3 meetings. November 12th at Temescal Valley Elementary. It's 6 to 8 p.m. where the public can go and express their approval, disapproval for the project. The project is basically a toll lane project that will start at Calco and go to Highway 74 in Lake Elsinore. However you want to feel about toll lanes, I'm not a fan. However, one thing we can argue for in those meetings are those auxiliary lanes I was talking about and improving the underpasses so people can actually get underneath the freeway as well. So if you have an opportunity to do so, to either be at Temescal Valley on the 12th, Eagle Glen Golf Club on the 13th. Unfortunately, I think that's in a week, right? Yeah, next week. And then on the 14th, Ortega High School in Lake Elsinore. But you can also do it online. That's online. Comments can be submitted at rctc.org 15 Express South. So I'll try and post that. But if you go on RCTC's website, they have it all over. They really want you to make comments. And I would really love that if we hear from our residents that this is important to them and these extra pieces are important. There will be a meeting next week of the Traffic Corridor Management Group, which I'm on the committee for. And one of the things we're going to be talking about is projects. The Down and Dirty, there's going to be 10 members of that group that are going to be talking about what projects are going to be included in the next 30 years. And I'm going to go there to push for projects that benefit not only the city of Corona, but folks that travel through our area. So if you'd like to know more about that, please go to RCTC's website and you'll see plenty of information on that. And lastly, I know that earlier tonight we approved the contract for our new city manager, Mr. Jacob Ellis. I know that he's watching. He messaged us all and said he'd be watching. Hi, Jacob. We're really happy to see him, and I can't wait for you guys all to meet him. He's a really energetic guy. He's moving in, I think, sometime next week into the city of Corona. I think he's going to be in District 5, and I'm going to brag on that a little bit. However, he will be here on November 25th. And hopefully in fact, one of the things that the council, when we met with him as a candidate, we asked for a 30, 60, 90-day plan about what he was going to be doing. And, a lot of that had to do with A, meeting staff, B, meeting with community members and getting out into the public so people knew who he is, and then getting out to our regional partners. So I can't wait for the guy to start. But I explained to folks, we're like the I'm not going to say the Yankees, but we've drafted, I think, a great guy, but and we've given him a bat and we've put him in the right position, and I think we're all very confident that he's going to be able to do a great job. But in the end, he's got to do the job, and hopefully you all can help him along and help him grow into that position to help us all. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Steiner.
I'll keep this quick. Last Monday morning, I participated in my 4th crossing guard shift at Proudview Elementary, and I wanted to thank Tom Coper and Chief Johnstone and your traffic teams for just being so responsive and making some changes really quick, not only to improve the safety around the schools, but also to try to do something with the traffic flow to improve that as well. Also, last Monday, I had my second on-site visit at John Adams Elementary for the same reason, to evaluate pedestrian safety concerns that were raised by the parents in that area. So, Mr. Kober, Mr. Johnson, you're doing a great job, but you're probably going to get some more feedback from me in the near future. I wanted to remind everybody that I am having a town hall meeting tomorrow night from 6 to 8 p.m. at Graziano's. I am providing dinner for the first 100. You're all invited. It's not just for District 4. I represent the entire city. And my planning commissioner, Karen Alexander, her mother passed away a few days ago, and also my mother-in-law passed away this morning. So I would like to close my comments in memory of Mary Joan Ray and Helen Dufault. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to hear about your loss, both of you. A couple of items from me. Since our last meeting, I attended the League of California Cities Riverside Division meeting, which was held in Long Beach on October 16th. As Councilwoman Carrillo said, I did the business day of the city for the chamber at their Good Morning Corona on October 18th. I went back out to Long Beach on the 18th to attend the League of Cities General Assembly meeting. Opened and attended the Lemon Festival, which was held in the front lawn of the Civic Center on October 19th. Then on October 23rd, along with Lieutenant Ock and Michelle, we attended the City of Riverside hosted Mayor's Forum on Homelessness. And I said I would get our two folks on the ad hoc committee some notes here. But just briefly, the City of Riverside talked about that partnerships are critical. Wraparound service towards jobs is their focus. The city cannot operate it, that they need a vendor. Councilman Chuck Conder of Riverside said, can't solve the whole thing, work toward individual solutions for individual people. Work as a group to develop well thought out plans and programs as partners for best grant chances. He said that 65% are transient, many being criminals that have been re-released. 35% are individuals with drug and mental health issues, and 5% are just individuals down on their luck. District Attorney was there. He is working with some cities to clean up individual records so that they will have an opportunity to be able to get a job. And I know Lieutenant Ock took down some notes about other comments made on that one. Public Social Services said that they are a collaboration agency. They have placed 325 families in housing. They have contracts with behavioral health and housing assistance. They have flexible funding. They spend $3.1 million for service delivery. They shared that the minimum required income for a regular one-bedroom apartment is $37,040. So an individual would have to earn that annually in order to get a regular one-bedroom apartment. And they requested that people not give money to those standing at the exits to freeways. Continuum of Care, which is a county group that gets together. Michelle was our representative. We'll try to get somebody back on that. There are 42 voting members on that, working with city, county, and service providers. Lake Elsinore, they had a team that spoke, and their sheriff deputy was the lead. He said that they are enforcing all laws, even if the individual is released 4 hours later. He emphasized that there has to be consequences for what people do, and they are enforcing that. And Lieutenant Ock assured me that we are doing that here as well. And Lake Elsinore, the sheriff deputy was saying to please try to convince people not to feed or bring items to the homeless. It just brings more people into your community. The Regional Homeless Alliance is a group, a partnership that has been made up of Lake Elsinore, Wildomar, Menifee, Marietta, and Temecula, and they have been meeting. And then one final thing on that. The Flood Control Agency, and I don't recall who shared this, indicated that there was a signed agreement with that city that gave the city permission to go on flood control property to clear debris, and that the Flood Control Agency covers the cost. I also went to the RCTC Traffic Relief Strategy Committee meeting on October 28th. Vice Mayor Steiner was sitting in for Councilmember Speak. Same day, attended the RCTC Western Riverside County Programs and Projects Committee. On the 30th, I went to the Senior Center, which had a hosted Senior Scam Stopper Seminar sponsored by Assemblywoman Cervantes. They had about 85 seniors in attendance, and then one kind of young guy. And they covered information regarding working with contractors for home repair, things to watch out for, guidelines. They had materials for that. Working with auto repair shops. They had pamphlets on that. They spoke about door-to-door sales and a number of other things. Great turnout, and those people were very appreciative. Census 2020, I led the Complete Count Committee of November 5th, and we went, anybody is invited to attend. Our next meeting is December 3rd at 1:30 here at City Hall. We're just trying to get the word out to every single person that in spring, please do the census. You can do it online, you can do it by phone, you can do it by mail. It's infants all the way up to seniors. And if you want to put it in a dollar perspective, every person we miss equates to $2,000 missed for revenue, potential revenue or revenue coming into the city of Corona, school district of the county. So feel free to join, and please start talking about the census coming in the spring. Again, no individual personal information will be shared with any other agency. It stays with the Census Bureau by law. Took a couple of trips, and I wanted to share one. I just got back from Seattle. And I want to share this because it was kind of eye-opening for me. So we met another couple up there, and we got there late in the afternoon, put our stuff away, and then we asked, where should we go? We want to go to happy hour. So we went to happy hour. Well, that's what you do. So we go over, and we're at the restaurant, and we had like 2 drinks each, and then we got 2 appetizers. So the reason I bring it up is because the bill came. The bill comes, and we're looking at the bill, and we cannot believe how much it is. We just can't believe how much it is. So we asked about it, and here's the situation. What they do, only some restaurants, what they do is they tack on an additional 20% to the bill. So to give you the example of in our case, so our bill was $84.
They were double shots.
Expensive place. Tax was $8.48, 10.1, giving it a total of $92.48. So our bill should have been $92.48. But then they tack on the 20%, and not only they tack on the 20%, they tack on a sales tax to the service charge. So I got a 20%, we did, $16.80 plus $1.70 additional sales tax, taking our bill from $92.48 to $110.98. That was an eye-opener for us. We began to ask restaurants and locations that we went, do you charge the 20% service charge? And if they said yes, we said, we're not staying here, and we told them specifically why. And not all restaurants are doing that. We heard that the reason they're doing that is because of the $15 minimum wage. The restaurants are trying to recoup it. Interestingly enough, the first place we went, it says on the receipt, 60% of the 20% will go to the server. The rest goes to the restaurant. Also interesting, if we had not caught the service charge, they had tip line. So we could add an additional tip if we didn't catch it. Another restaurant that we asked about, they said, well, we don't ask for additional tip. But it was just kind of an eye-opener, and it's interesting when you're traveling to find these different things that take place. Moving on from that, got to attend the Veterans Honor Wall today. It was great for the police department and honoring all those past, present, future who have served in the armed forces and are members of the police department. And with that, I don't know if you guys noticed earlier when it came up for the diabetes thing, we had somebody who was kind of scruffy. And he's going to go on camera here in just a second. But the chief of police was kind of scruffy looking today. It's not the norm. So I'm going to go over to the chief, if it's okay with Mr. Lansdale, find out what the heck is going on.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to address No Shave November. This is the police department's first year participating in No Shave November. It's to bring awareness and to raise funds for cancer research. Two of the programs are colorectal cancer and also the St. Jude's Cancer Foundation. So our officers will pay $50 to participate. Those that don't wish to grow facial hair have the opportunity to wear jeans on their Fridays if they're assigned to station duties. But the interest is in getting out in the community and having that conversation with our community members about raising awareness and raising funds. We do have a link on our Facebook and our Instagram to our No Shave November if any of our community members would like to donate. Our goal is $5,000 and we've currently reached $1,500. So we're well on our way, but we could use any assistance community members would want to give us. I also welcome anyone else on council to participate as well. Council member speaks way ahead of us.
You always look like that way.
He has to pay $50 a month. He's going.
I just need to know where I.
Who do you make the check
Who
out
to make
to
the
and where do
check
you
out
send
to?
it?
Where do I send it? Yeah.
Because Joe Morgan was asking.
The link to No Shave November is where you can sign up and participate in our actual PD group. And that's on our Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, I can't.
And with that, we're going to close this meeting, dedicating it to the heroic efforts of Carrie Smith and Ryan Cortez, as well as to the parents of Vice Mayor Steiner and Karen Alexander. And send our love to both of you. And with that, we are adjourned until Wednesday, November 2nd, 20th, November 20th. Thank you. Have a good evening.